Actors and writers in Hollywood have been on strike for weeks. And in multiple cities across the country, you can actually see it. For example, okay, heading downstairs. Here in New York City, CNN shares offices with its parent company, Warner Brothers Discovery, which is one of the strikers' biggest targets. So anyone who comes near the building is going to hear about it. Just walked outside, and I can see the strikers right across the street. Every weekday, rain or shine, SAG-AFTRA, which is the main actors union, has been on the picket line with their signs and matching t-shirts, making their voices heard. The Writers Guild has organized similar events across the city. Now, these strikes have ground Hollywood to a halt, but I think it's important to note the vast majority of these union members are not the super famous A-listers you might be thinking of. And they say the core ideas behind what they're striking for can apply just about anywhere. My guest this week is CNN business and politics correspondent Vanessa Yurkevich. We're going to talk about why this so-called hot labor summer goes well beyond Hollywood and why union workers feel they have more leverage than ever. From CNN, this is One Thing. I'm David Rind. Vanessa, it seems like I can't go a few days without hearing about a strike or some kind of labor action. What's going on here?
It's definitely the summer of strikes or the summer of almost strikes.
Almost, right?
Almost.
Right. So can you walk me through some of the biggest ones that have gone all the way to a strike? Like the writers and actors are still on strike in Hollywood, right?
Exactly. So the one that came first was the writers' strike in May. And tell me, why are you out here today?
We're out here to fight for the sustainability of a profession that literally generates billions of dollars annually.
I was out in front of the Ed Sullivan Theater when that went down.
There's writers who have worked on successful shows and then are having to drive Ubers in the meantime waiting for the next gig.
But we're at about 100 days and counting now. So we've surpassed the strike that happened in 2007, 2008, and we are creeping towards hitting a record, which was in 1988. That strike went on for 154 days. So
Wow.
The writers now have been on strike for over 100 days, and no signs of the two sides getting back together to come to an agreement. And it was a really interesting time because you had the writers, the directors, and actors all negotiating at the same time. The directors were able to come to an agreement with the studios. The actors did not.
If we don't stand tall right now, we are all going to be in trouble.
And they went on strike in July. So now you have the writers on strike, the actors on strike, and they're both really asking for the same thing.
You share the wealth because you cannot exist without us. Thank you.
Yeah, what are the demands?
They want better residuals around streaming because everything is on an app, and they want to know how many people are watching, and they want to make sure that they're compensated for it. Also, both the writers and the actors want better regulation around artificial intelligence. They don't want a computer writing their scripts, and they don't want a computer creating stand-in actors. That's been a big fight for both parties, and both sides, the studios and the writers and the actors, seem pretty far apart right now on those two sticking points.
What are the studios saying in response?
The studios are saying that they have made historic offers. They have raised the rates on residuals for actors and writers, but they also talk about changing climates.
There's a level of expectation that they have that is just not realistic. And they are adding to a set of challenges that this business is already facing that is, quite frankly, very disruptive.
So they're not being realistic?
No, they're not.
We heard from Disney CEO Bob Iger on CNBC, who talked about the fact that he believes that this strike is misguided, that the writers and the actors are asking for too much. However,
yeah, it's very funny that this multi-millionaire CEO says that we're not being realistic.
the writers and the actors would point to record profits that some of these studios have been pulling in.
I wrote for a very big show called The Bear. I made very little money. I saw no profits in it. I lived below the poverty line working on this show that has made millions of dollars for FX and Disney at large. This is not how the world has to be.
They say that they just want their piece of the pie because without them, the studios don't make money.
Right, obviously a lot of money at stake here, not only for the studios, but for the union members as well. So do we have a sense of what the financial ramifications could be if this drags on?
We know that the writer's strike that happened in 2007, 2008 cost the U.S. economy $2 billion.
Wow.
And that was years ago, and that was only at 100 days. Now we are going past that. We can expect this to be a big impact, especially in the state of California. And then the ripple effect is so important. It's not just the wages lost to the writers and the actors and the profits lost to the studios. It's the bodega owner. It's the Uber driver. It's the set design studio. They were all working together in this ecosystem.
Like the catering people on set are out of a job too.
Craft services, they're not being hired right now. The ripple effect is immense, and it will be prolonged if this doesn't get wrapped up soon.
Happening right now, more than 11,000 Los Angeles city workers are on strike. Picket lines already forming in the front of City Hall, also at LA.
And California is really interesting because that's where you have the majority of writers